I just want to put out a quick epilepsy warning before we start. There are a lot of flashing lights and colors throughout the game, and Cyberpunk itself warns you every time you start it up.
In 2077, what makes someone a criminal? Getting caught.
Hey now, resistance futile.
A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad. I'm sure everyone's heard Miyamoto's quote every time a company delays a game, and as overused as it is, it's very much a true statement. Most of the time. All in all, though, Cyberpunk is a fantastic game, though an exterminator might have been handy to have early on. I pre-ordered the game on PS4 a few weeks before its release, but I didn't get around to actually playing it until January. Either because I played it on PS5 or because I played it after its first bug fix update, I didn't experience a lot of texture and frame issues. But oh lord did it crash a lot. Prior to Cyberpunk, the only game I played on console that crashed was Fallout 4, and I only remember it crashing once over my 500 hours of playing. Two crashes in Cyberpunk I can remember at the time of writing this are a little bit after dying to literal trash, and almost immediately after quote-unquote fighting the final boss. Speaking of dying to trash, there obviously were quite a few bugs in my playthrough, ranging from bikes falling out of the sky, to enemies T-posing mid-fight, to intentionally breaking the game with a duplication glitch so that I could roleplay as Jeff Bezos. Sadly, as of update 1.2, the duplication glitch no longer works, so you can't get money as easily. The infinite money cheese is still there, I assume, but you can't duplicate the item to make it go faster. Even without glitches, it is incredibly easy to break the game. Now, I won't immediately delve into spoiler territory because I feel that if you want to experience the story, you should play the game yourself. There will be a disclaimer once I do start to go into the story, so feel free to leave then if you want. I'm just going to start out here by saying that I love TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games. And Cyberpunk greatly reflects the freedom you can have if you are playing its tabletop counterpart. Choosing a background that influences dialogue, adding body mods to improve specific abilities, even putting points into different skills felt so much more impactful. Within other games with a similar skill point system like Fallout or Outer Worlds, where the specific abilities each skill affected were more spread out, Cyberpunk having only 5 main skills with detailed descriptions about what putting points into it affects really helps when you're trying to design a build. Initially, I intended to focus on body for health, heavy guns and melee weapons, and cool for stealth. I planned on doing an unarmed build because I thought that just running around and punching things, including robots, would be a fun way to play the game. Eventually, I ended up building up reflexes for blades and crit, and disregarded the stealth tree of skills and cool, instead opting for the cold blood tree that provides various bonuses every time you kill someone. Within 10 levels or so, I ended up being able to one-shot any enemy with a heavy attack from my katana, and by level 20, I had over 1,000 armor, provided that I had cold blood stacks and I was moving with a bladed weapon. With all this freedom, however, comes consequences to your actions. At one point in the story, you have to go to a certain building to gather information. I accidentally slaughtered everyone because I tried to walk past a guard in the open, and later, when talking with the head of the building, she was annoyed at me because of it. The vibe of the game was where it really hit me, though. No spoilers yet, but I will be talking about quest titles and other very minor things. All the way through the game, I loved how much it referenced. All throughout, you'll find a lot of Chinese and Japanese culture, much like the original Blade Runner. And even with Blade Runner 2049, with the main character of that movie going by a single letter as their name, K, and Cyberpunk's main character goes by V. This very well could be a coincidence, though. Then there's also the motorcycle from the anime film Akira making an appearance. The Joker stairs pose in the photo mode also makes an appearance, but that's more of a meme than a genuine reference. There's also the quest titles, with many of them being references to various songs. I Walk the Line, Fortunate Son, Happy Together, I Fought the Law being only a few that I remember as of writing this and that I recognized. One of the devs even made a Spotify playlist for all the songs that have a quest made after them. Around Night City, you're also likely to come across various graffiti tarot cards on walls as well. A few of the trophies are also named after different cards in a deck. Near the end of the game, one of the characters, Misty, also asks if you want to do a tarot reading. Again, no spoilers yet. I'm honestly a big fan of when things use tarot cards because, for one, I'm using them in my own D&D campaign, and also, well, now is the part where I start to go into spoilers for the main story and a few side quests. So if you don't want to see spoilers, thanks for watching. If not, on with the video. Cyberpunk's main story is one of the best that I've played. Every last minute I was engaged, and the only reason I ever put off doing main quest stuff was because I didn't want the experience to end. The main thing that your background choice influences at the beginning is how you meet Jackie, your best friend and the guy who died in the cinematic trailer. Because I chose Street Kid instead of Corpo or Nomad, I ended up taking a job to steal a car, only to be intercepted by our boy Jackie, and then both of us get arrested after experiencing the first bug anyone will likely see. Following this is a montage of V getting closer to Jackie, and at the end of it, no title card, surprisingly. At this point, you're thrown into the open world, and if you continue the story, you end up in Arasaka Tower to steal a briefcase with some important information on it. Shit hits the fan pretty fast, and you and Jackie watch Yorinobu Arasaka strangle his father and tell security he's been poisoned, because money will make sure the autopsy report says what he wants it to. Eventually, the case gets damaged, and Jackie has to keep the chip that was in it in his own head. After a crawl through the tower, you met with the first boss, an enforcement droid from RoboCop, who I literally beat to death with my bare hands. After a car chase, you manage to make it back to your employer. Jackie, however, doesn't, as he dies in the car. Even though it was spoiled in the cinematic trailer, it still hit me, especially when Delamain puts the decision on you of where to bring him. Once you go to talk to Dex, you wash up and then get betrayed. Again, spoiled in the trailer. It is only then, after what could possibly be 10 hours of gameplay, that you end up seeing the title card. Following that, you're then brought back to life by the chip you stole from Arasaka, saved from the dump by Takamura, and after another car chase and going to your Ripperdoc friend Victor, you finally meet the one, the only, Keanu Reaves. And he is a massive dick. The rest of the story is V trying to find out how to get Johnny Silverhand out of his head and how to get back at Arasaka. At the end of the second act, after finding Arasaka's sister and telling her the truth about her father's death, you get ambushed by Arasaka's goons. It wasn't until I watched a Let's Play that I found that you could actually save Takamura, because when I played, Johnny said that he was already dead, so I trusted him and ran without looking back. At this point, I focused on doing some side quests, but in order to keep things short, I'm only going to focus on Pan Am's, Johnny's, and the Happy Together quest. Initially, when playing, I wanted to romance Judy, but then I met Pan Am. Not that I could even romance Judy because my V was Madel, but still, tomboy supremacy wins again. I genuinely felt her story was well written and loved the climax of it when you were able to drive a tank and give yourself a freaking seizure. This then also can transition into an uncomfortable clothed sex scene with frequently changing camera angles. And at the end of it, you hop out of the tank and the game doesn't even put your clothes back on. As for Johnny, you know how I called him a dick at the beginning? Well, that's how he started out. He was controlling, constantly telling you to do something, and when you refused to do it, he got angry. Eventually, once he becomes more accepting of his place in V's body, he gives you a set of dog tags that was given to him by a man that saved his life. He then asks for control of V's body in order to talk with Rogue, a fixer, only to go on a bender that ends in a car crash. At the end of the questline, you get to where Johnny is buried and have a little heart-to-heart with him, and he accepts that it's V's body and that he'll be ready to go when it comes down to it. As for the Happy Together quest, this one genuinely hit me hard. This whole quest involves a former police officer who is already struggling with having to kill a kid, and now he's struggling with the loss of a loved one. The only way to complete it is to talk with him in depth and then go to the grave of his friend Andrew, only to figure out that Andrew is just a turtle. And if you talk to the officers outside his door before going to Andrew's grave, then you fail the quest, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Though a little comic relief is that the quest title is named after a song by a band called The Turtles. As for the rest of the main story, depending on who you work with and what side quests you complete, you can have multiple options in terms of how you want to raid Arasaka Tower. Because I romanced Pan Am, I ended up choosing the Nomad ending, which is arguably the best one if you consider Misty's tarot reading and the clips that play during the credits. The entire final climax feels so rewarding all the way through, and then the momentum just stopped as I stun-locked the final boss and killed him in like 1 minute. Then, once you're finally at the finish line, you're told that after everything you've been through, V's body is going to reject his own consciousness and he will end up dying in the coming months. This is where the final choice of the game comes in. Whether to give up your body to Johnny and join an endless sea of data, or return to your body and live what life you have left. Honestly, this was a really great way to end it, especially when Johnny is showing how much he's changed and grown as a character, borderline telling you to take your body back. There is so much that makes Cyberpunk so great, even with all the shortcomings of its release. But in an industry where games are able to be updated constantly, is it really that bad? Having grown up in the back end of when games didn't have the chance to fix themselves after release, I'm genuinely not sure. If bad games are easily disregarded as they can be fixed later, then that just makes developers think they can make a bad game but not worry because they can just change things based on the reaction of the people. Then again, we wouldn't get such amazing redemption stories like with No Man's Sky and Fallout 76, games that were absolute failures at launch only to constantly be supported and become better games, though still with the occasional shortcoming. But anyway, I want to thank you for watching. If you want to see any of my other videos, you can go ahead and check them out. If you like this one, like, subscribe, yada yada yada. Have any tips of how I can improve? Feel free to DM me on Twitter or leave a comment. I genuinely want to get better at making videos because video games are a platform I deeply care about. Until next time, see y'all later.